Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in today for a very interesting discussion about becoming a digital nomad and why our speaker, Anna Golan-Reznick, chose Costa Rica. Anna is a certified financial planner and a U.S. chartered retirement planning counselor. She works with clients in Canada on regular domestic financial planning matters, but also works with a lot of cross-border clients, people with U.S. connections as well as international ones. She has over 20 years of experience in the financial industry and is passionate about working with clients who are considering relocating or retiring overseas. Anna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited about this conversation because we're going to explore a topic that's becoming more and more popular. Canadians working remotely, and we're also seeing clients getting curious about trying life abroad, even retiring abroad. So just to start off with, what inspired you to focus on cross-border financial planning in the first place?
My path was really shaped by my personal experience. I've relocated internationally a couple of times, and so I live the challenges that come with moving between countries, such as navigating taxes, investments, and just daily financial logistics. Because of that, I think I developed a real empathy for expats. I wanted to help people avoid the confusion and costly mistakes that I run into myself. And I think that blend of personal experience and professional expertise pushed me into specializing in cross-border planning. And honestly, demand has only grown, especially since the pandemic created more flexibility around remote work.
It's interesting. I find the conversation coming up more and more organically these days. And I remember talking to you and you saying that you developed a long list of to-dos as you prepared for your most recent relocation. Again, you've relocated a couple of times, but that doesn't look like Canada in the background. That looks more like Costa Rica. So your move to Costa Rica, your list of things to do, how did that work, developing that list?
Honestly, Jason, my to-do list just keeps growing. I'm constantly adding new things to it. So right now it's about 40 pages long. And there are so many logistics to handle when you're moving from Canada. And some tasks you don't even think about until you're in the middle of that process yourself. For example, figuring out on how to transfer and withdraw funds abroad, or deciding where to keep your money, saving on foreign exchange, or sorting out health and life insurance. It all adds up. And every time I cross one item, it seems to find a couple more to add. So the good thing is that by going up through myself, I'm better prepared to guide clients facing the same challenges. But I would say not every item applies to everyone. When I work with clients, I do use my personal experience as a starting point, but I always customize the list to fit their unique situation and needs.
40 pages, my goodness, that's a lot of steps to make a move. I think that there is a lot. Moving generally takes a lot of work. Moving countries is a whole different thing. And demand, I think, has really expanded for people looking for advice and input on moving from Canada, or also moving back to Canada for that matter. Do you think there's more mid-career Canadians who are interested in testing life abroad out now compared to before COVID? Have you noticed sort of a material change in the last 5 years?
Absolutely. There's been a big wave of professionals, especially in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, who ask themselves, if I can work from anywhere, why not to do it somewhere warmer, somewhere more exciting, inspiring? And that decision comes with added complexity. You really have to think differently about your tax residency, or how your investments are handled, estate planning, even each bank account you can use abroad. It's exciting, but without planning, it can be very overwhelming.
So speaking of excitement, I know Costa Rica is a very exciting place. I've been there before myself, found it was beautiful. But why did you choose Costa Rica? There's a lot of other options that Canadians may be more familiar with. Obviously, Mexico, for example. I know Portugal and Spain in particular have brought a lot of attention in recent years. So why did Costa Rica stand out for you, Anna?
So Costa Rica checked a lot of boxes for me. First, the time zone. Costa Rica is on the Central Standard Time, which aligns really well with parts of Canada. So that means I can keep a normal workday and be fully available to my clients, unlike moving to Portugal or Spain, for example, where the time differences make things tricky. And then, of course, the climate and nature here are unmatched. I love that I can start the morning listening to toucans and I can see monkeys on my lunch break. And I can finish the day by watching the sunset over Pacific. Life also feels slower here. So people embrace the Pura Vida lifestyle here, which is about appreciating the present, valuing family, and living stress-free. It really resonates with me both personally and professionally because, financial planning is not just about the numbers. It's about supporting the life you actually want to live.
Actually, it's funny. I didn't even realize till now. You may or may not be able to see. I've got some. I don't know if I can point properly. I've got a little surfboard back there in the corner. It's a Pura Vida from Costa Rica, as it so happens. So it's something that stuck with me and a lot of people that have been to Costa Rica. But they're really inspiring, Anna. And I know when Canadians dream about paradise, I mean, there's some people who like the winter and skiing. I'm not one of them either myself. But what are some of the biggest misconceptions you find when people are thinking about retiring to or just relocating to another country like Costa Rica?
I think, Jason, there are some big myths, of course. And the most common one is understanding or underestimating the cost of living. People often think it's cheap, but it depends on your lifestyle. Like if you continue living as you live in Canada, it can become very expensive because imported goods, or let's say if health insurance or even certain housing costs can be much higher than expected. And another big misconception I would say is around taxes, because people think once they leave Canada, they are done with CRA, but that's not true. Relocating can trigger a deemed disposition on assets or subject you to withholding tax on Canadian income sources. And pensions, such as Canada Pension Plan or Old Age Security, those don't always pay out the same way as if you were still in Canada. So I would say without proper planning, it can add some very expensive surprises.
Regardless of what you do, if you've lived in Canada or worked in Canada for a while, you've got CPP, you've got old age security, you've probably got RSPs. It's not like you can transfer your RSP on a tax deferred basis to another country. So you have still some ongoing Canadian ties and taxes. And so I know you haven't been in Costa Rica for very long, but you mentioned cost of living can be less, but it depends how you live. Like if you had to guess, how does the cost of living so far compare to Canada? Have you been surprised?
Yes and no. I underestimated some of the living expenses, such as rent, for example, because, when you're looking for rent from Canada, you can see nice houses and affordable prices. But when you come here and you check it yourself, you maybe don't want really to live this.
Pictures look good, but maybe not in real life.
Yeah. So we in the last couple of months, we moved already 4 times. I think this place is, we rented for a long term. It's for a year. So we hope to stay here a year. We're trying to make it comfortable for us. As you see, the view is very nice from here. So
very nice. I feel like a monkey is going to jump onto the back of you before long, though.
Oh, I just saw them about an hour ago, right?
We'll see if the monkeys can make a special appearance. And what about retirees? I'm curious. Do you find more retirees are planning to retire abroad, or do you find it's the other way around? Like people who are living in other countries and thinking about coming back to Canada for retirement, for healthcare, or other reasons?
Great question, Jason. Actually, I think it goes both ways. But lately, I'm seeing more retirees planning to move abroad rather than returning to Canada. It's very appealing to retire in a warmer climate, such as Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico, or even Portugal. And it's a big draw for many Canadians. That said, there are also retirees who decide to move back to Canada, often for family reasons, healthcare access, or simply because they miss home. So it really depends on individual priorities.
I think that the world has become a lot more international these days. Canada has become a lot more international, lots more people moving back and forth. So this is becoming just a more common part of Canadian financial planning. And so when Canadians think about moving abroad, what do you find is a common misconception that they have about, for example, managing their investments that you encounter?
One big misconception is that you can keep your Canadian investment accounts exactly the same, even after moving abroad. Many people assume they can buy, sell, and contribute just like before, but it's not always this simple. Some Canadian financial institutions restrict trading for non-residents at all, and others may even require to close accounts. So this can create surprises, especially if someone is not prepared and suddenly can access their usual investment options. Plus, the tax implications can vary significantly depending on your residency status and the country you move into. That's why it's very important to plan ahead and get professional advice, which is tailored to your unique situation, and avoid losing control or facing unexpected surprises.
I've seen a couple of instances where non-residents have made the mistake of continuing to contribute to their tax-free savings account, for example. And the worst part about that is it seems to be 5 years later, the Canada Revenue Agency notices and sends them a letter and assesses all kinds of penalties. So there's these little things you've got to make sure you don't mess up, because it can be really
very unpleasant situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what are some of the biggest mistakes you find with Canadians who are planning to live abroad around retirement, like retirement financial planning?
Well, honestly, one of the biggest pitfalls is trying just to figure it out later. Moving abroad has a lot of moving parts. As we said, taxes, currency swings, investments, benefits. And, if you wait until the last minute, you can end up drawing your savings or getting hit with surprise tax bill. Another thing I see is a lot of people turn into social media groups or friends for advice about tax and investment planning. And it's tempting because it feels easy and relatable, but a lot of that advice is pretty generic. Everyone's financial situation is different, and what maybe work for one person might cause big headaches for another. So maybe these groups can be great for community or general ideas, but I always tell people to work with professionals who really understand the cross-border stuff and can give you advice that fits your own situation, especially if it's related to your taxes or your money.
Yeah, I think there's certain things as well that are easier to do before you leave Canada that you may not be able to do after you leave. So it's important to plan ahead for sure. And for those who are listening in and watching, how do you go about developing a retirement plan for an expat? Like if someone is living and working in Dubai, they're in the United Arab Emirates, for example, and they plan to retire to Montreal, Quebec. How do you go about building out the financial assumptions to assess their retirement readiness when they've been gone for 20 years?
Well, developing a retirement plan for expats definitely adds more complexity. For example, clients living and working in Dubai may have a completely different lifestyle and pay different taxes than they would in Canada. So for some clients, we start with a cross-border consultation focused on preparing them for a move back to Canada. So during this consultation, we cover key topics like when they become a Canadian resident and start paying Canadian taxes, how to handle their international investment accounts, moving money back to Canada or keeping it abroad, property purchases, and more. So this helped them get ready for the move with a clear picture of their financial and tax implications. Once they settled in Canada and understand their income sources, living situation, let's say, for example, whether they will rent or buy, and expected expenses, we build in their formal retirement plan. So sometimes it takes a few months or even a year of evaluating the cost of living and their actual situation in Canada to create projections that are accurate and useful. Other clients, some may come to us earlier, wanting to see if retiring in Canada is even feasible given their current financial situation and lifestyle abroad. So for those clients, we build initial retirement projections with approximate income, approximate expenses, and saving figures to help them make an informed decision.
I find it ends up being very creative in some cases when you're trying to envision these situations and, well, let's estimate what a, 3-bedroom house costs, and let's estimate what, this cost of living compared to what you're doing in Dubai. And a lot of times I think people are traveling a lot in some of the places they are. Maybe they won't travel as much when they're back here, but I think it's helpful to have somebody who can walk you through those things. And just to build on that, helping clients that you work with. If someone says, I'm thinking about living abroad part time, like a snowbird, or part year resident somewhere, or permanently, for example, making the move and becoming a true non-resident, what's the first step that you take to help them?
The very first thing is clarifying their tax residency, because that one decision affects everything else: their taxes, their investments, estate planning, even the healthcare coverage. And honestly, CRA guidelines are often unclear, and I always consult with specialized tax professionals for a second opinion to ensure each client's unique situation is interpreted correctly. From there, I help develop a strategy that is not just about compliance, it's about protecting their lifestyle and giving them peace of mind. And again, I never do it in isolation. I collaborate with cross-border tax professionals, online brokerage firms, and portfolio managers. And I also encourage my clients to build a trusted network of advisors in the country they are moving to.
I guess it's a big decision to decide, whether you leave money in Canada, whether you work with a portfolio manager. Sometimes they can't work with residents of other countries to set up a self-directed portfolio. Big decisions, and you want to get it right, especially when you're talking about your retirement savings. And since you're a Costa Rica, well, you're a semi-expert in Costa Rica. I mean, you've been there a few months. You've done a number of visits. You've done a lot of research, but you're well versed in Costa Rica. You've mentioned lifestyle is amazing. That's one of the things that attracted you. But when it comes to money, what financial habits make the biggest difference for someone who's going someplace like Costa Rica?
Well, Costa Rica has a higher cost of living than many expats anticipate. So managing currency risk is very important. Day-to-day life here is in Cologne, and many of my client savings are still in Canadian dollars. So if you don't plan for that, exchange rate swings can really erode your budget. So my advice is always to hold some reserves in local currency for short-term needs, diversify your holdings for longer term, and use efficient transfer platforms instead of relying on banks with high fees.
Got it. So moving money back and forth, having a plan to do that, particularly if you're getting paid in another country, or you have investments in another country, or rental real estate in another country, all really important to plan for pension, everything. So it sounds like your move to Costa Rica wasn't spontaneous. It was deliberate. It was 40 pages of to-dos that you checked off. Can you share a bit about your journey? Like, how many times did you go visit Costa Rica? How long? What was the process to make a move, and what did you learn along the way?
We actually visited Costa Rica 3 times before coming here as digital nomads. So the first trip was classic tourist adventure, renting a car and exploring all the popular spots ourselves. That's when we really fell in love with the country and started imagining what life here might be like.
And when you did that, was that trip, did you think that you were going to maybe move there, or was that just a regular vacation?
I just wanted to visit Costa Rica.
Wasn't that funny? And you fell in love.
Yes. And then a few months later, we came back to check out areas we hadn't seen on the first trip. We timed this visit to coincide with our daughter's 12th birthday. So it was a celebration, but also to narrow down where we did and did not want to live. After that second visit, we felt ready to make big decisions, so placed our house in Canada for sale. So while waiting for sale, which actually took about a year, we dug deeper into practical details, researching bilingual schools, rental prices, and living costs, mostly in the South Pacific region where we wanted to settle. We use personal connections and local advice to get a well-rounded perspective, but as a financial planner, I always wanted to validate the info carefully myself. So on the third trip, we really lived here for a couple of weeks. We rented a house, we did groceries instead of eating in the restaurants, cooked at home, and tried to get that authentic day-to-day experience, not just a vacation. I brought my laptop with me as well and spent time preparing for clients' meetings, even if I did not have live calls with clients. So I would say that hands-on approach gave me peace of mind that I could work remotely from here long-term. We even brought our dog here to see if she would be comfortable here. So I would say these scouting trips were very, very important. They helped us understand the realities of living here, and they made our transition of digital nomad life much smoother and more confident.
Oh, it's a big move, and I think a lot of big adjustments, obviously, for you personally moving from Canada to Costa Rica. And what have you found is the biggest change as a remote worker, as a digital nomad, so to speak?
The biggest adjustment has probably been embracing the slower pace of life here. You know, like everything has pros and cons. So Costa Rica's pura vida attitude means things don't always move as quickly as I was used to in Canada. So like where it's getting paperwork done, or opening a bank account, or just running errands. At first, it took some patience, but honestly, now I genuinely appreciate how it encouraged me to slow down, enjoy family time, and take in the incredible nature and beauty all around. So I think it helped me to find a better balance so I can fully enjoy life while staying productive and focused on my work.
I know you mentioned that even getting around and driving, you need a 4x4, and it's not uncommon to get stuck in the mud. I mean, people here in Ontario have to deal with traffic on the 401, Highway 401, but different traffic there.
Yeah, true.
You've got to be ready to embrace the Pura Vida, right? Or Pura Vida. So just as we're wrapping up here, what advice would you give a Canadian, or anyone for that matter, who's dreaming of becoming a digital nomad, retiring abroad, and they're not quite ready to make that leap and take that first step?
I always recommend starting with a trial run. So come for a few weeks or months, try living like a local and see if the lifestyle fits. Don't rush into buying property right away. And while you're here, pay attention to the details that affect your daily life. How you shop, healthcare costs, internet reliability, because those things matter more than palm trees when you're here long term. So ultimately, the move should align with, with your financial and lifestyle goals. But again, there are no two situations that are the same, and that's why good planning is everything.
The not rushing into buying a property advice is really good. You mentioned taking a year to sell your house. I mean, the market, for those who aren't in Ontario, the market has changed a lot. In Ontario, housing has been a little more muted in terms of the price increases we've seen previously. And I think there's a lot of Canadians who think they have to own real estate, but some of these other countries, it takes a long time to sell real estate if you change your mind. So got to be careful. So all good, fantastic advice. Thanks for sharing your professional insight. Your personal journey, I think, is very helpful and helps you relate to expats and anyone considering a digital nomad lifestyle, Anna. So thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been real fun sharing.
And thank you to the Canadian Financial Summit audience who joined us for this session on becoming a digital nomad and learning a little bit why Anna chose Costa Rica specifically. Our team works with lots of expats moving back and forth from Canada, different countries. We've met a lot of very interesting people around the world. It's a very unique area of personal interest for Anna. She's been on both sides of the situation, giving and taking advice. She has her 40-page list, some of which will coincide with things that you should be thinking about if you're considering making a move. And if you have any questions or just want to learn more about how Anna might be able to help, we're going to put her contact info up on the screen as we wrap up here. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening and joining this session of the Canadian Financial Summit.